Good morning, I'm Angelo Castro III.
I'm Angela, and we're the Castros.
We bring you the news.
And the views that make you think.
Sometimes we agree.
Sometimes we don't.
This is News and Views.
And here are today's headlines.
Starting March 19, jeepney and bus fares will go up by 1 to 2 pesos. Plane tickets for April will cost more than double under the new Level 8 fare system.
Thousands of tricycle drivers get 5,000 peso ayuda from the Social Welfare Department, with more PUV drivers set to receive cash in the coming days.
After the lower chamber, the Senate has now approved a bill granting President Bongbong Marcos emergency powers to suspend or reduce fuel excise taxes.
House Justice Committee will discuss preliminary matters on Vice President Sara Duterte's impeachment today, March 18.
First in the news, commuters are set to pay more starting this week as transport fares increase across multiple modes, while airfares are also expected to rise next month. Here's the report.
Commuters will now have to pay more as the Land Transportation Franchising and Regulatory Board greenlights a fare hike across multiple modes of public transportation. Starting Thursday, the minimum fare for traditional jeepneys will increase from 13 to 14 pesos. For every succeeding kilometer, an additional 20 centavos will be charged, bringing the rate to 2 pesos per kilometer. For modern jeepneys, the minimum fare rises by 2 pesos from 15 to 17 pesos. An additional 20 centavos per kilometer will also apply. Meanwhile, ordinary city buses in Metro Manila, excluding those operating on the EDSA busway, will also see a 2 peso increase in minimum fare, now at 15 pesos. The per kilometer rate goes up to 2 pesos and 49 centavos, reflecting a 24 centavo increase. For air-conditioned buses, the minimum fare climbs from 15 to 18 pesos. The per kilometer charge is now at 2 pesos and 98 centavos. Airport taxi flag-down rates will also rise from 75 pesos to 115 pesos. However, there will be no changes in the per kilometer and per second rates. Transport Network Vehicle Services, or TNVS, will see base fare increases ranging from 13 to 44% depending on vehicle type. Point-to-point buses will also implement a 15% fare increase. All new rates will take effect on a Thursday, March 19. But for some transport groups, the increase remains insufficient.
Daig pa namin yung nanlilimos sa gobyerno. Mas malaki pa yung kinikita ng mga badyaw na sumasabit sa mga jeepney namin na wala namang kinukonsumo. Pakonsuelo di bobo ang ibinigay po sa transport group. Hindi po ito tulong.
May tutulong po ba sa inyo yung dagdag?
Malabo po. Napaka. Yung piso lang, yung gasino lang yun.
LTFRB Chairman Attorney Vigor Mendoza III says the fare adjustment is based on their computations. He adds that drivers could earn an additional 600 to 1,000 pesos.
Ito po ang pinaka-sustainable plan para tuloy-tuloy lang po ang takbo ng ating pampublikong sasakyan. And as you note, we have not increased it more than the increase of minimum wage. Halos sinabayan lang natin yan.
And while commuters brace for higher fares on land, air travelers may also need to prepare for more expensive trips. Starting April, plane tickets are expected to cost more after the Civil Aeronautics Board raised the fuel surcharge to level 8. For domestic flights, fuel surcharge rates will increase from around 117 to 342 pesos to as much as 253 to 787 pesos, depending on distance. For international travel, passengers may pay between 835 pesos up to over 6,200 pesos in fuel surcharge, higher than the previous range of around 385 to 2,800 pesos.
Now, thousands of tricycle drivers lined up on Tuesday for the initial rollout of the 5,000 peso assistance from the Department of Social Welfare and Development, or DSWD. President Bongbong Marcos personally led the distribution at a payout center in Santa Mesa, Manila. Marcos assured that additional aid will be provided if the situation in the Middle East escalates.
Pinabantayan natin kung ano mga bagong pangyayari, kung ano pa darating.
para naman matiyak na patuloy na makapaghanap buhay ang ating mga kababayan at patuloy na makapasok sa trabaho yung ating mga commuter at patuloy lang at hindi naman masyadong maging problema itong nangyari nga sa yung gera sa Middle East.
In Quezon City, the first day of distribution saw some hiccups, mostly due to discrepancies in the official list of beneficiaries. DSWD Secretary Rex Gatchalian personally addressed the issues raised by claimants.
Huwag kayong mag-alala. Hindi matatapos tong linggo na to na hindi nyo nakukuha yan. The lists are all from the local government units. Hindi naman ho kami ang gumagawa ng listahan. And Mon, ayaw ko yung sabi nito, sabi niyan, because lahat yan, alam ko, pinag-aralan na mabuti ng mga lokal na pamahalaan. Hindi papayag ang lokal na pamahalaan na maglalagay doon sa list. Now, yung sinasabi niyong patay na, tama ba? Matidetect natin yon. Kasi nga, kaya nga physical yung payout. Hindi yung i-deposit na lang namin sa account.
Agriculture Secretary Francisco Chu Laurel Jr. said rising fuel costs have so far not significantly affected rice farm gate prices. In an interview with The Big Story, he assured that farm gate prices remain at manageable levels despite the increase. Meanwhile, fuel subsidies for farmers and fisherfolk are scheduled for distribution before the end of March. He added that a separate assistance package under the Presidential Assistance for Farmers and Fisherfolk program will be rolled out after Holy Week.
Your office also announced fuel subsidies for farmers and fisherfolk. We have about almost 15,000 fishers and 14.3K farmers, and there's 100 million for them. When can they start rolling it out, Secretary? And is this a one-off?
Technically, the fund from Bureau of Fisheries and the funds from the DA for fuel subsidies, what money we have now, no? So that will be released before the end of this month. Then, kung magdeklara ng state of emergency nga on this, then we can probably get from a quick response fund up to maybe up to 1 billion, ano? But besides that, we have the Presidential Assistance for Farmers and Fisherfolks that we will be rolling out after the Holy Week, April 6 or 7. That will be about 2,350 pesos per beneficiary. That's about total of about 4.1 million farmers and fisherfolk. So,
Pero iba pa po yung fuel subsidy dun sa assistance from the DA. So total ba yung 5?
Yung pera namin kasi yung 3,000 per farmer and fisherfolk on fuel subsidy, limited yung pera namin. So technically, from my last computation, it's only about 25,000 beneficiaries ang mabibigyan on the fisher side. And the farmer side, 20,000 beneficiaries. So that will consume our budget for that. We have 10 billion pesos on the Presidential Assistance for Farmers and Fisherfolks. That's for 4.1 million beneficiaries yun. Kaya lang, because of the limited budget of 10 billion, so it adds up to about 2,350 pesos per beneficiary.
And just to clarify, Sec, yung fuel subsidies ba, do you guys do some accounting to check whether pang fuel lang talaga dapat gastusin yung money na yon, or pwede bang discretionary na rin ng recipient where nila gagastusin yung pera?
Yung sa fuel, basically, the list na bibigyan nun, magkakaroon. Kaya, let's say sa fisherfolk, kailangan may motorized bangka sila eh. So technically, dun pwede gamitin. Sa farmers naman, kung meron silang traktora or diesel engine may pump, no, o kaya hand tractor na motorized, yung sila lang, yung mga walang registered na gamit, hindi sila makakuha nun.
In other news, the Defense Department is dismissing claims of a supposed third force plotting to overthrow the Marcos administration. Here is the report.
Defense Secretary Gilberto Teodoro challenged retired military officials to file a formal complaint if they have evidence of an alleged coup plot against the Marcos administration. Teodoro said authorities have not received any information regarding the so-called Third Force, which is allegedly planning to overthrow the government. He added that anyone with solid evidence should submit a formal affidavit to the authorities for investigation.
As responsible citizens, why don't they execute the proper affidavit and file it with the law enforcement and prosecutorial officials so it can be investigated properly? Kung meron talagang ebidensya.
Earlier, Romeo Puquiz, a retired Philippine Air Force general and convener of the United People's Initiative, claimed that the Third Force might be planning a, quote, coup d'etat. In a social media post, Puquiz alleged the group intends to carry out bombings and assassinations to force the overthrow of the government and establish a civil-military junta. Puquiz also stressed that patriotic members of the armed forces should not allow any unconstitutional seizure of power.
We'll be back with more stories after the break. Keep it here on One News. Good morning. You're still watching News and Views here on One News. The Senate has approved a bill allowing President Bongbong Marcos to suspend or reduce fuel excise taxes amid rising oil prices. The bill was passed on third and final reading with 17 votes in favor. Lawmakers say the move aims to ease the burden on consumers, though any rollback may take 30 to 45 days to be felt. Once implemented, the government estimates price cuts of over 11 pesos per liter. The measure now moves to bicameral discussions with the House version.
Senator Bam Aquino is pushing for the passage of the Classroom Building Acceleration Program, or CAP Act. The bill aims to reduce the estimated 165,000 classroom gap and provide additional classrooms to replace those damaged by natural disasters, as well as to support the growing student population. It also authorizes local government units and civil society organizations with established track records to construct classrooms using national government funds to help expedite implementation.
Joining us now is Senator Bam Aquino himself here in the studio to discuss his proposed classroom building acceleration program alongside other pressing issues. Good morning.
Good morning.
Thanks for joining us again.
Good morning, Angela,
Nice
Diego.
seeing you.
Well, thank you for joining us.
Yes.
Well, you've been in the news lately, especially for this, kasi malaki ang backlog natin, Sen, no? So
Yes.
could you talk more about this urgent need?
Well, pagpasok natin, when we got back to the Senate last year, we found that the classroom gap was at 166,000 classrooms. And na-shock na lang ako nung nag-hearing kami. And this was October 2025, nung tinanong ko yung DPWH kung ilan na yung nagagawa nila for the year.
Yeah.
Yung nagawa lang nila up to that point was 22. Not 22,000,
22.
22.
22 classrooms.
22
Okay.
classrooms with a gap of 160 plus thousand. By the end of the year, ang nabuo nila was 99. And that's less than 100. no?
Yeah.
So we needed to find a way to really accelerate the building of classrooms. So yung naisip namin, kailangan sa tamang presyo, sa tamang panahon, sa tamang paraan, 'di ba? Because it was also when we came up with this bill, it was during the time nagkakaskandalo sa budget, sa flood control and all of that, 'di ba? So unang-una, the bill bypasses DPWH and allows LGUs to build directly. At
That's
nakita
a big
namin,
difference.
it's a big difference. Nakita namin na yung mga local government units, kasi sila mismo yung nandun on the ground, no? Mahalaga sa kanila na yung mga eskwelahan, maayos kaagad. Mabilis yung pag-implement. It takes them about 200 days. DPWH takes about 3 years to build a classroom.
Exactly.
We put a price cap in the law para hindi ma-overprice yung mga classrooms. And dahil sabay-sabay gagawa yung mga LGU, we can all build at the same time. May chance tayong makabuo ng maraming classrooms sa isang taon. And alongside this, sa national budget for 2026, we were able to successfully push for 67.8 billion pesos for classrooms. This is the highest ever for classrooms in our history. Kasabay niyan yung highest ever budget for education in our history, in Philippine history, at 1.3 trillion pesos. So malaking portion doon will go to classrooms at the K-12 level we will prioritize areas na congested, nagdo-double and triple shift, mga condemned na kailangan palitan, mga school building sa mga malalayong lugar, mga school building na tatamaan ng lindol, ng bagyo, and we're hoping to complete 25 to 30,000 classrooms this year. No? So, kung mabuo yan this year and we continue the funding for the next 6 or 7 years, there's a chance to actually make up the gap. No, in the past, pinapabayaan lang tong gap na to na lumaki ng lumaki.
Yeah.
Naiipon eh.
Naipon. I think in 2017 or 2018, this gap was down to less than 10,000. Pero over the years, dahil hindi napupuntuhan, hindi ginagawa, hindi nabibigyan ng tamang pansin, palaki ng palaki ng palaki.
Yeah.
Eh, hanggang umabot tayo ng 160,000. You know, pupunta ako sa mga schools, they have makeshift classrooms.
Yeah.
Gawa sa plywood, yero, mapakainit, yung sahig, lupa, no? Wala mang flooring. Or there was one area, yung covered court, wala na silang classroom, kinonvert nila into 4 classrooms. May plywood lang, yun na yung division ng mga classrooms in the covered court, so wala kang marinig. And we know our educational system is in crisis. We know that our students are 2 to 3 years behind. Yung grade 7 is actually at a grade 4 level, yung grade 10 is at a grade 7 or grade 8 level. At kasama yung learning environment dito. Kung hindi maganda yung learning environment, among many, many other things, nakakadagdag yan sa mga problema ng mga bata.
Right, this bill is very promising, but you had hope that this bill would pass in February.
Yes.
Pero it's already March. What's happening?
Well, pasado na kami sa Senado.
Yes, sa Senado.
In fact, we got complete support in the Senate. We also have good support in Congress, but I'm hoping, today is the last day, I'm hoping mapasa pa rin yan. Pero kung hindi, siguro sa April, no, pagbalik natin. The good thing is, even though the bill isn't passed yet, the DepEd is already implementing it through the GAA. No, because in the General Appropriations Act or the national budget, yung ibang mga provision ng CAP bill, nilagay na namin doon, no? So we included that LGUs can now build, DepEd can now download the money to the LGUs. To be honest, medyo nababagalan ako ng konti kasi mag-March na eh. I was hoping by the end of March naka-download na yung pera so that the LGUs can start building during the summertime. Kung malate yung pag-download ng pera at mag-build sila kapag umuulan na, mas magiging mabagal yung progreso nila. No? So, we had events in Malacanang with the governors, with the city mayors, and up to the point na nagka-crisis tayo dito sa Iran, no, and the price of gas went up. That was really one of the main focus of government. And we were really happy with the push. But I'm hoping na tumuloy yung pagda-download ng pondo, makapag-groundbreaking at makapag-build na yung mga LGUs. At the same time, mapasa rin yung CAP bill, no? Bakit mahalaga yung CAP bill?
Yes.
The CAP bill, ibig sabihin nun, di na kailangan every year nilalagyan ng mga special provisions. We really allow the LGUs to start building. May certainty na sila dito. Pangalawa, we put a price cap in the CAP bill. And I think this is a very important feature. Naglagay tayo ng price cap dun sa bill na yon na hindi pwedeng lumampas sa mga certain amounts. No? Because, you know, classrooms, simple lang naman ang classroom eh. Di ba? I mean, hindi siya complicated na public works. No? Simple lang siya. So more or less, yung presyo, alam mo na kung magkano talaga. Nag-iiba lang yan kung napakalayo ng lugar, no? And the logistics and the hauling make it a little bit more expensive. Pero hindi naman yan dodoble o titriple. No? Very extreme cases lang yon. Kunyari, gagawa tayo ng classroom sa Pag-asa Island. Yun talaga, mahal yan. But for most areas, these are areas na stable yung mga presyo.
Exactly.
Now, what did we find in the hearing last year? May mga classroom noon nasa 1 million, ito yung gawa ng mga NGO, may mga classroom nasa 4 to 5 million. Paano nangyari yun,
when you
di ba?
look at them, yung iba unfinished, yung iba they didn't even do it.
Or in one of our resource persons was a mayor in the Visayas. Pinakita niya yung mga photos, magkakatabi yung mga classroom, ito gawa ng DPWH, ito gawa ng LGU, ito gawa ng NGO, magkakamuka, pero ang lalayo ng mga presyo. So ba't ganun, di ba? So, sabi ko nga, tamang presyo, tamang parahan, tamang panahon. Hindi pwedeng delayed. And we find that the LGUs are the fastest in building kasi nape-pressure sila eh. Tamang panahon, yung tamang paraan is of course that we allow LGUs to build at the same time. Hindi siya naka-focus sa isang agency lang. Pag maraming sabay-sabay nag-build, we have about 1,400 LGUs. If they're all allowed to build at the same time, sa palagay ko, that's the only way we can make up the gap.
Para may para may comparison lang tayo sa DPWH before sa kanila, ilang years bago nila natatapos
Average
compare
is-
dito sa goal mo?
It's 2 to 3 years.
3 years.
And marami kang makikita unfinished.
Oo.
Like we have been to campuses or mga elementary school, ano lang, parang may foundation, may mga bakal-bakal, konting semento, hindi naman tinatapos.
Yeah, yeah. Right,
And to be fair, si Secretary Dizon has committed to fulfill 3,000 classrooms care of DPWH using the 2025 budget. Kasi marami silang hindi natapos in previous years. So we were talking about it and DPWH will try to finish their backlog. Itong 2026 budget, this should be for the LGUs.
Right.
No, na sabay-sabay dapat gumawa.
Pero sa bill mo, Sen, is there a determined specification or quality assurance? Kasi ang agam-agam ng ibang tao sa educational sector that we spoke to, they fear na baka ang, let's say Quezon City has a different interpretation of quality versus Makati.
Yes, the standards are the same. Especially, that's why mahalaga yung bill, pare. Mahalaga yung bill kasi nakalagay doon yung kailangan they're called minimum standards, minimum performance standards of DepEd. So merong yung rules pagdating sa Lindol, sa Bagyo, sa size, no? There are specifications. But we want to allow the LGUs, they should fulfill the standards pero may konti silang espasyo sa design. No? Because like one of the questions, if I'm not mistaken, was this Nueva Ecija yung nagtanong or Ilocos? Maybe in Ilocos, sabi nila, Sen, kasi yung classrooms namin, nandun kami sa area na heritage area. Pwede ba yung frontage namin mukhang heritage area? Sabi ko, go ahead. Basta, okay tayo sa Bagyo, sa Lindol, sa size,
That's more important.
the standard. So we mandated standards, not designs. So they can have different designs as long as yung standards pasok sila.
And they're free to adjust kasi each LGU may kanya-kanyang needs. Like for example, LGU 1, baha ang issue. LGU 2, heat wave ang issue. So they're allowed to, at least may flexibility to adjust
They
sa
are,
materials.
and many of these LGUs, ginagamit rin naman nila yung SEF, yung Special Education Fund, to enhance the classrooms.
Okay.
So some of them, they want to put solar, or they want to, I think DepEd has funding for like small TVs,
Yes.
but they want bigger TVs, or they want a projector. The LGU is okay to do that with their own budget. No? So may spasyo talaga sila. And this is really a partnership between the national and the local government. No? Kung magawa ito, we're really hoping it can correct this huge problem. No? Itong problema sa mga classrooms, ang laki ng epekto niyan sa mga bata. It really is detrimental to their learning ability. Among many other things, no? Kasama na dyan yung pagkain and yung school-based feeding program. Dinaas rin namin yung budget to 20 billion pesos. So, for the first time, universal yung K tsaka grade 1. Meaning lahat ng kinder tsaka grade 1, dapat may pagkain.
Yeah.
And then yung grade 2 to 6, mga undernourished or malnourished or stunted. No? So for the first time, there's a huge budget for feeding. There's huge budgets for support for teachers, yung textbooks, no? Finally, may mga gains tayo in terms of distributing textbooks. There's so many things na kailangan gawin pagdating sa educational space.
Super.
And ang nakikita namin, kailangan talaga ng tamang pagtutok. Yung tututukan mo talaga, mag-commit ka, mapupondohan ito, magagawa ito, at kaming ng legislator, because we have the power of the purse, nakabantay kami, nag-oversight function kami dito. No?
Now, before we move forward to another topic, I would like to touch up lang yung sinasabi mo dun sa LGU na sila yung in charge dito, they will identify kung sino yung dapat i-prioritize sa mga classrooms. So, I know
DepEd is prioritizing the classroom.
Yeah, okay. So, the list will come from
The list
LGU.
comes from both the LGU and the local DepEd. So, meron silang consolidated list dapat, and then it goes to DepEd. DepEd is still the one that decides.
Yun. Kasi the reason why I asked that, because in some of the reports that I would do, I would go to, even here in Metro Manila, there are areas pa rin na mga walang classroom or tatawid pa yung mga estudyante sa ilog. Lulusong sila sa ilog to go to the another side of the, para makapunta sa classroom nila. 3 yung shifts ng classroom na yon. And I would want to know paano yung prioritizing, kasi even here in Metro Manila lang, and what more sa far-flung areas?
So the funding for this year, and I'm hoping for the next 7 years, ang laki niya compared to previous years. No? So, yung pagpa-prioritize sa mga areas na pinaka-delikado, yung talagang wala na talagang classroom, sirang-sira, I think for the first few years, it won't be that difficult. No? Kasi 25,000 classrooms. In previous years, hindi tayo lumalampas ng funding for 4,000 or 5,000 classrooms. So, I keep on telling the mayors and the governors, ang laki ng pondong ito, ang pinaka-key is magawa natin kaagad. Kasi if we're not able to use up the budget, create the classrooms at the right price, at the right time, with the right specifications, baka maantala yung next year's budget nito. We have to show na kaya natin itong mabuo. So yes, may prioritization yan, but I think there's more than enough right now kasi honestly, marami rin sa mga DepEd, they still have problems with their land. Yung mga titulo ng mga lupa, inaayos pa. So sabi ko sa mga mayor, yung mga may problemang titulo, ayusin nyo na muna, ipila na natin yan for the succeeding years. So even if you look at how many classrooms can be replaced right now, yung handa na talaga sila, ang term dyan, shovel ready, no? Yung pwede ka na maghukay. So that will limit from the 160,000 na gap, malilimit talaga siya kung ano yung talagang possible right now, no? But ang key kasi dyan is that dapat napupondohan to every year until mapuno natin yung gap. And I've committed that as long as I'm in the Senate and I'm the chairman of the Committee on Education, we will really push that this gap is fulfilled, mapunuan tong gap na to, at matutukan talaga ng tama. So, we tell the mayors, Mayor, yung isabit ninyo, kunyari, nagsubmit kayo, 50 yung kulang nyo, you get 10 for this year, i-ready nyo na yung the next 10 for next year, until maybe 4 or 5 years. And hopefully, by the 5th or the 6th year, we can get this done. No? It won't happen all in one go. Pero as I always say, kung nais ng gobyerno gawin ito, kung may political will, kung may tamang prioritization, magagawa at magagawa yan.
Another issue we'd like to talk about is education, which hinders a student from really learning, is bullying, which you talked about these past few days. You called for faster reporting kaysa unahan yung mga viral. Ang question daw, Sen, is sometimes it's not really the reporting mechanism but the students reporting to the authorities kasi natatakot sila. Have you thought of any measures that will empower students to parang brave sila enough to report what's happening?
I'll be honest with you, when we had the hearing, hindi ko ina-expect na yung reaction would have been so much. No? And even after the hearing, I got messages from a few parents na nagsasabi na, we're so happy na nag-hearing ka in our school, natatago yung issue na ito.
Yes.
These are, some of these are private schools, some are schools outside of Metro Manila. At nagsasabi sila, buti nilang na-bring up to kasi this is happening even to my child, to my daughter, to my son. And ang pakiramdam nila, yung mga school tinatago. Okay? Or yung mga school hindi nila nagugustuhan kapag napag-uusapan. No? At kung tinatago yan, tutuloy-tuloy lang yan. Di ba? So, what we found, because apart from talking about the problems, we also had one school present yung best case. This is Batasan Hills, no, here in Quezon City. And yung pag-present nila ni Miss Jennifer, no, I remember si Jennifer yung pangalan niya, she's the head teacher, nababa nila ng 80% yung cases of bullying nila. And what did they do? So unang-una, something very practical and very physical. May CCTV. So in the common areas, meron silang CCTV. And we got word from Senator Gatchalian, who's our chairman of finance, na meron namang budget yung mga schools for CCTV, at least in the common areas. Yung per room, may mga teachers na ayaw, or for example, baka budget masyadong mataas. But yung common areas, it's important kasi deterrent siya from doing wrongdoing, di ba? So that's one. That's also the suggestion of Senator Tulfo, Raffy Tulfo, na mapondohan talaga na merong CCTV in the schools. Yung pangalawa is really an active community against bullying. Yung teachers, yung parents na represented by the PTA, even the student council, mabilis sila gumalaw. So in their case, and kinukwento niya yung pinakamabigat nilang case of bullying last year, within 48 hours, natawag yung magulang, natawag yung parents, may mga guidance counselors na tumulong sa mga bata, na separate yung mga bata, merong penalty dun sa nag-offend, you know, and alam nung eskwelahan, alam nung mga bata na may penalty kung mangbubuli ka, di ba? So all of these combined, no? And of course, how can I forget? They had a lot of seminars and pre-work in terms of creating a culture against bullying. On the first 2 weeks, hindi lang yung auditorium style, pero sa classroom mismo, pinag-uusapan.
Concentrated focus.
May culture yung mga student leaders na magsumbong. Kasi ako, nung bata ako, nagsusumbong ka, negative yun, di ba?
Lalo
ka.
Mas napapahamak ka pa.
So, that's what you were saying. But ito, they were saying, no, the student leaders, they need to help create a safe space. So, na-empower sila na mag-report. Even the teachers, yung case the case that led to the hearing, yung nakita sa Ilocos, no, yung talagang sasama yung loob mo talaga pag makita mo yun kasi parang kinuyog yung bata.
Yes,
di ba?
yes.
Talagang ang sama talaga ng ang sakit ng puso ko, ang sama ng pakiramdam mo nung pinapanood mo yun.
Right.
And the RD mentioned that they might penalize some of the teachers because there was a teacher who actually saw it.
I didn't do
while it was
anything.
ongoing.
Well, hindi clear sa akin kung while it was ongoing or nadumaan siya. But nagulat ako when the RD of DepEd, the Regional Director of DepEd, siya mismo yung nagsabi na posibleng magkaso sila sa mga teachers for not doing anything. So, it starts there eh. Kailangan ng kultura na kung may nang bubuli, unang-una kailangan may magsumbong. But more than that, people need to step in. People need to step in, di ba? Hindi pwedeng payagan lang. Okay. Pangatlo, yung deterrence of having CCTV, the seminars, malaking bagay yan, no? And fourth is really yung action ng school. Kung within 24 to 48 hours, natawag na yung magulang, may action talaga nangyayari, alam ng mga bata na hindi to acceptable dito. May penalties yan. And that's what I kept on telling DepEd, the director from DepEd. Students and parents need to know na merong penalty kung mangyari ito.
Exactly.
Kasi, yes, I agree, even the bully needs to have mental health support. Tama naman yan. A lot of the bullies, yan na nakikita nila sa bahay, kaya yan na nangyayari. But there needs to be some kind of penalty na swift and just. Diba? Kung makita ng mga bata na may ganyang klaseng action, mas magiging deterrent yan. And, I was challenging DepEd. Sabi ko, tinatawag tayong bullying capital of the world.
Yes.
Kailangan natin ng zero bullying policy dito na hindi ito acceptable sa mga eskwelahan natin. Because our schools, kailangan lugar yan kung saka pwedeng matuto, saka pwedeng lumaki, mag-grow as a person. Kung takot kang pumasok, kasi kinakabahan ka, mabubugbog ka, mamumura ka,
Domino effect na siya eh.
Yung batang yan, yung mental torture sa kabataang yan, ang laking bagay niyan sa kanyang kinabukasan. So we need to create that safe space and we need to show that we're tough. We just meaning wala kang kinikilingan, but we need to show that we're tough and we're just pagdating dito.
But I understand the need of all the things that you have just mentioned. But of course, meron pa tayong isa pang problema na nakikita natin na it contributes dito sa bullying natin sa school, no? Sa mga school natin, which is the lack of guidance counselors.
Yes.
Ang daming guidance counselor daw na wala talaga sa mga schools, especially on public schools. So how do we address that?
Well, in our law kasi, in the Mental Health Act, kailangan mo ng guidance counselors. Kulang yung ating guidance counselor. So, there's another term that they use parang guidance counselor designate, parang ganyan. Meaning, walang exact qualifications, pero may training. So, I think this is what DepEd is trying to do na sa mga eskwelahan na hindi makahanap ng guidance counselor with the right requirements, or qualifications, merong mga ititrain na pwedeng mag-act as guidance counselor. Yung isa pa dyan, and this was suggested by the Guidance Counselor Association, hiwalay dapat si guidance counselor kay disciplinary officer.
Yes.
Hindi siya pwedeng one and the same person kasi kung ganun yung nangyayari, natatakot na mag-open up yung mga bata.
That's true.
And ang worry dito ng mga senador and a lot of the parents is that excessive bullying can lead to self-harm. It can lead to suicide, na ayaw nating mangyari syempre, Our schools need to be safe areas. Kailangan mga ligtas na lugar where people can grow up properly, So the safety of our schools is very important and we've committed to really look at this issue and track kung ano ba yung nagiging progreso ng DepEd dito.
Now, let's talk about the excise tax.
Yes.
Aprobado na yan sa Senado, ganun din sa Congress, pero may pagkakaiba kayo So, paano yun? Paano kayo, kumbaga, magko-consolidate dalawa? Because sa Congress, ang sa kanila, kailangan may mag-declare muna ng national emergency ang Pangulo to be able to do this suspension ng excise tax.
So, if they don't adopt our version, probably mag-bycam yan.
Yes.
And anyway, it's a few more days, And probably by next week, this can already be finalized. Yun lang naman talaga yung major na pagkakaiba. May mga ilan kaming provision na nilagay na safeguards, So, let me backtrack. So, the excise tax on fuel, nalagay yan because of the train law.
Yes.
And I was a senator in my first term during the train law. I voted no sa train law.
Yeah.
Specifically because pag tinaas mo yung presyo ng gasolina, magtataas talaga presyo ng lahat ng bilihin.
Yeah.
Okay, ang raming expert nagsabi, hindi totoo yan, ito lang yung tataas, ito lang yung ganyan.
No way,
But
oo.
in the end, nakita natin, right after the train law was passed, ang taas ng inflation natin. And it took more than a year for prices to stabilize. Pag tinataas mo yung presyo ng gasolina, tataas yung presyo ng bilihin. So, nakaabang na kami dyan. Okay. So, itong last March, I think it was March 2, nanawagan na kami, knowing that this was going to explode. Nanawagan na kami na tanggalin yung excise tax. And we're happy that this was certified urgent. And now, the executive has the power to suspend the excise tax on fuel. Alam ko na malaki ang koleksyon ng gobyerno
Yes,
dito.
we're about to lose 136 billion.
136 billion. Pero, Angela, I mean, tinan mo na lang, yung flood control, magkano ba dapat yung flood control sa budget natin ng 2026?
Exactly.
It was 260 billion pesos.
That's right.
Okay? So, malaki yung 135 pag makikita mo. Pero alam rin naman natin, kung magtitipid tayo, good governance, wag tayo pupondo ng mga alanganing proyekto, mga proyekto na baka mabulsa lang, may makakalap tayong pera na yan, di ba? And right now, yung kababayan natin, kailangan nila ng konting tulong. Sa totoo lang, pag nasa 100 na yung diesel mo, yung 10 piso, hindi na nga ganun kalaking tulong yun. Pero tulong pa rin yun. And at this point that our oil is deregulated, that's the least that government can do. Na pag-uusapan din yung VAT, maybe pagbalik namin in April, mapag-uusapan din yung maybe suspension of VAT because that's another
Yes.
amount na nakukuha mula sa crudo, sa oil. Pero ito can be a first step in terms of helping people. Tulungan natin yung mga kapwa Pilipino natin na mababato ng konti para hindi na tayo makatulong sa pagtaas ng presyo ng bilihin. No? Kasi tataas yung presyo ng bilihin dahil dito. We're at a crisis level. Diego, Angela, talagang nakita niyo ba yung mga pila nung isang araw?
Yes.
Sa mga gas
We
station?
experienced it.
Oo,
Yeah.
oo.
And that's because natatakot tayong tumaas. Eh, kung wala tayong supply, that's still a
Isa pa,
possibility.
that's another
That's a whole other problem na mas malaki pa, no? So right now, government has to move. Kailangan urgent yung paggalaw ng gobyerno. Nag-release na sila ng tulong sa mga PUV
ayuda,
drivers. And I'm hoping hindi lang yan Metro Manila kasi alam ko yung release was Metro Manila. Dapat nationwide
Yes.
yan. Eventually, kailangan ng tulong sa mga maliliit na negosyo. You know, because our small business, yung maliliit na negosyo, they comprise the majority
That's
of
right.
businesses in the Philippines, no? 99% are micro, small, and medium.
MSP.
Yan yung mga matatamaan ng malaki kapag magtaasan ng presyo. Pag wala nang pupunta sa mga karinderya, sa mga tindahan kasi ayaw nang lumabas yung mga tao. Your transport sector, your small and medium enterprises, kailangan ng tulong sa kanila so they will keep open. Kapag bukas sila at nag-ooperate yung negosyo nila, may pambayad sila sa mga workers nila, yung mga tao hindi mawawala ng trabaho. And this is really important na yung gobyerno nakatutok dito kasi ang bilis ng mga nangyayari.
Mabilis.
Yes.
Sabi ko nga, yung pagtaas ng presyo, fast and the furious
Oh.
eh.
Sabi-
ang bilis at ang
Exactly.
taas.
Oo.
Nag-snowball lahat eh. Pero ang
Oo.
question, Sen, ang sinasabi ng marami, parang ang reaction was all short-term and knee-jerk. The government daw should have a long-term contingency plan. How about revisiting the oil deregulation?
We discussed that. We discussed that in the Senate. The Senate President himself discussed that.
Yes.
Pinag-usapan namin yan, no?
Will you support it? Sabi nila kasi
we have,
magtatamaan ka ng mga
we have
business.
a provision in our version that talks about, ito kasi yung problema, nagbaba ka ng excise tax. Sigurado ka ba na magbababa yung presyo ng mga oil company?
Importer lang ang makikita.
No. Because yung presyo sa gasolinahan, that's dependent on the oil companies.
That's right.
So sabihin mo na, wala nang excise tax, tagal ka ng 10 piso. Are we sure na tatanggal talaga ng 10 piso, di ba? So we put in our version of the bill, kailangan ipakita na nakatanggal talaga yung excise tax dun sa final price, no? And these are problems with the regulation and deregulation, no? Now, to totally deregulate, pag-uusapan, kailangan mo ng hearings dyan, you need to listen to the experts. But definitely, kung may gagawin kaming aksyon, which is we will allow the President to suspend the excise tax, at kunyari, gawin nga niya, gusto natin makita yan mismo sa mga gasolinahan.
Because ordinary people would not Parang kumbaga hindi nila matanggap yung sinasabi ng mga oil companies na, okay, meron pa kayong stock dito, pero tinataasan nyo na because mataas na yung market. Ang sabi nila, it's an industry practice, we're pricing it because of the replacement cost, not the purchase cost. Pero sa ordinaryong mamayang Pilipino,
Ano yun?
parang dinadaya nyo naman kami para sa kanila, di ba?
So, we put in the provision na they will have to show us kung saan mismo itong mga pagbabawas na to. Kung yung gobyerno magtatanggal ng excise tax, and that's dapat 10 piso yan sa diesel, 6 to 7 pesos sa gasolina at the current prices. Kung tumaas pa yan, tataas rin yung mababawas. We want to make sure na mababawas talaga to at the gasoline level. So there will be some kind of transparency na hinahanap namin para makita talaga namin na bumababa talaga yung presyo.
I'd just like to, in relation, you mentioned small to medium enterprises. Now, I've spoken to a lot of business owners that are thinking about closing shop for the meantime.
Yes.
Similar to the pandemic. What do you think you can do? Well, at least to encourage them to stay open, because let's face it, even the US, their economy is based on middle class.
Yeah. We need to support our SMEs. We need to support our transport workers. Napakalaking pondo ang nakalaan sa ayuda. You know, maybe this is the time na gamitin natin siya targeted, targeted na paggamit ng ayuda para masigurado natin yung ekonomiya natin hindi magre-recession, hindi babagsak, no? And we have to keep our businesses open. We have to support our transport driver kasi kung masyado nang mahal para lumabas, ba't ako lalabas?
Yeah, that's right.
Diba? So, whether it's a fuel subsidy, direct ayuda, some kind of support, or an inclusive supply chain, meaning government uses its budget to buy more from SMEs. Kung ano pa man yan, kailangan ng suporta ngayon. And we're looking at hopefully just 3 months, 3 to 6 months. But the truth is, we don't know. Hindi natin alam kung gaano katagal
We cannot control it.
We can't control it. Now, habang itong mga short-term na mga issue ginagawa, kailangan nagpaplano ka na for the long term.
Exactly.
We need to have a larger supply cover, no? Tinatawag nilang cover for our oil. We only have 60 days. I was in a conference last week, and I think Indonesia has 250 days. Japan has close to 1 year. You know, yung 60 days is too short. No? We need to really increase that. We need to look at maybe some of our rules pagdating sa oil. Our over-dependence on oil also needs to
Other
be
suppliers.
checked. But honestly, medyo long-term yan. Yung short-term ngayon yung nakikita ng mga tao kasi, I mean, it's masakit sa bulsa. If you notice, traffic is less kasi hirap na hirap yung mga kababayan natin. And we need to support our transport drivers. We need to support our SMEs. May nagtanong sa akin about sending kids home. And yun sana yung last. The last resort is to close our schools down. That should be the last. Kasi nakita natin sa pandemya, nung sarado yung mga eskwelahan, ang laki ng epekto sa
nag-regress ng mga students.
A large part of kung bakit nasa gantong estado tayo, dahil rin yan sa pandemic, no, nasarado yung mga eskwelahan. We were one of the last countries to reopen our schools. So kung ko tatanungin, sana yun yung huli. Yung huling last resort na yun kung kailangan tayo magsara. Yung Senate will be going to a work from home, I think today or next week. Mag-work from home, na kami, yung Senate proper. So I know that a lot of companies will shift here to support their workers. But I'm saying this now, sana yung mga eskwelahan natin, yung pinakahuli.
That's true.
So,
Pinakahuli dapat yan na titingnan o pinakahuli na posibleng pauwin yung mga tao.
Officially today, work from home for some matters sa inyo.
So today we have session. So I think it's next week.
Next week na.
We're at work
Kasi
from home.
paano na rin sila
We have a break until
Break na sila sa
May. So
Holy Week.
konting savings sa kuryente. We have a memo already from our Senate Secretariat. So we will be implementing that also sa Senado.
Ang isa sa mga umaaray din dito, ang hindi masyado daw napapansin, all the time, middle class.
Yes.
Okay, so we pay our taxes, 'di ba? Pero wala namang kaming ayuda. So what can we do for them? Kasi sila parang ang nakakapit ngayon sa thin line ng poverty threshold because of what's happening.
I think, Angela, yung support for small businesses, that will really help our middle class, no? Yung middle class kasi natin, wide. Pag sinabi mong middle class, malaki yung range na yan. Pero yung mga middle class na, sabihin na nating minimum wage earners, or may mga small businesses, ito yung, they're above the poverty line and therefore they don't get, hindi nila nakakuha yung mga ayuda, pero nasa delikadong sitwasyon
Sila yung sa gaps.
Sila yung delikado. Yung kapag may shock
Holding
na
on to the
ganito,
poverty.
posibleng bumaba. Yun dapat yung tulungan natin.
Yes.
So, it's really a targeted approach, no? And ito, araw-araw na bilihin to. We will see the shocks eventually sa palengke, sa grocery, sa gasoline station, sa sari-sari store. Ito yung masakit talaga eh. So, kailangan yung gobyerno ma-action, mabilis gumalaw. Kung may mga ayuda na pwedeng targeted, mabigay ka agad. Kung may support for industries, mabigay ka agad. No? And wag general, dapat specific. At this point, age of information, alam naman, mahahanap naman sino yung farmers na kailangan ng oil subsidy, sino yung fishermen na kailangan ng tulong para sa mga bangka nila, mga transport workers, minimum wage earners. We need to be very targeted sa tulong na ito, no? And we need to act fast.
Okay. Last na to. Alam ko you're too serious and kumbaga parang talagang ang gusto mo ay ma-focus sa work. Pero syempre, we cannot ask you, kung wala, andito ka, we cannot ask you about something. Okay, yesterday I was talking to former Congressman Mike Defensor, and he said that tahimik daw kayo when it comes to the issue of corruption.
He meant the
That's
liberal.
not true.
He meant the liberal bloc daw.
Well, if you look at the Blue Ribbon hearings, no, I think I've been very active there. Malinaw naman yung hinahanap natin na makulong yung mga sangkot, mabalik yung pera, mabago yung sistema. Hindi pa rin natin to nakikita. No? At habang hindi pa nga resolved yung issue na ito, may bagong issue na naman. But if you ask me, Angela, Diego, all of these issues go back to the issue of corruption. Bakit? Kasi yung pondo ng bayan pinag-uusapan natin eh. We're worried about 153 billion pero yung nanakaw sa flood control, kung di tayo umaksyon, 260 billion and more yan, di ba?
Exactly.
So, babalik at babalik ka. Kung ang korupsyon, naka-minimize siya or nawawala siya, mas may pondo ka para sa taong bayan. By the way, yung Kadena Act ko, yung blockchain the budget, is still in Congress, di pa rin pasado. I'm hoping it can get passed today or maybe pagbalik namin sa April.
Dahil mo ginagawa, may Party List System Reform Act ka pang binabantayan.
Marami.
Okay, alright. As always, maraming salamat for joining us today. Thank you so much, Senator Bamaki.
Don't go away because we're not done yet. Stay with us. Welcome back. You're still watching News and Views here on One News. Let's now head over to the House of Representatives for the latest. Mobile Journal Amy Atienza is reporting live on the ground. Amy, ano bago?
Good morning, Angela, Diego. Today nga ay magkakaroon na naman ng pagdinig, no? At nagsisimula na actually yung pagdinig ng House Justice Committee tungkol naman dito sa sufficiency of grounds ng impeachment complaints against Vice President Sara Duterte. So paglilinaw lang ni Committee Chairperson Jervy Luistro, no, na pag pinag-uusapan itong sufficiency of grounds, mas titingnan nila yung naging sagot din ni Vice President Sara Duterte, lalo na dahil natanggap na rin naman ng komite yung response nito noong Lunes. So far, meron tayong naririnig no, ng mga manifestations at paulit-ulit na rin naman sinasabi dito no, ng mga endorsers ng complaints na technically yung naging response ni VP Sara ay denying the allegations lang pero walang specific na sagot doon sa mga naiparatang na salaysay ng mga pangyayari tungkol nga doon sa mga impeachable offense ni VP Sara. So far, titingnan natin kung ano pa nga ba yung mga mangyayari at kung ano pa nga ba yung mapapag-usapan ng komite mismo para nga dito sa impeachment complaint sa impeachment complaints against VP Sara. So far ay magkakaroon din at narinig na rin natin kahapon no na inauthorize na rin ng Kamara na magkaroon ng proceedings itong House Justice Committee para nga sa recess or session break nitong Kamara. So magtutuloy-tuloy yan at titingnan natin kung ano nga ba yung magiging timeline din ng House Justice Committee tungkol dito.
Target nila, Amy, pag-transmit sa plenary for a vote?
Sorry?
Ano target ng Justice Committee para umabot na to sa plenary para magbotohan na sila?
Well, so far kasi ngayon, nasa pa lang tayo, nasa part pa rin daw ito ng preliminaries, no? So once na magkaroon na din ng impeachment articles at ma-finalize na nga yung grounds talaga for impeachment against VP Sara, doon pa lang nila ito itataas sa plenaryo sa Kamara. So tuloy-tuloy naman yan dahil nga inalaw na nga rin itong House Justice Committee na mapag-usapan yan during the session break.
All right, thank you for that, Mobile Journal. Amy Atienza reporting live from the House of Representatives.
Key government officials share updates on national developments for the first quarter of 2026 at Kapihan sa Manila Hotel. For the details, let's bring in our mobile journalist, Arles de los Santos. Arles, ano ba yung mga naging discussion dyan so far?
Angela at Diego, medyo mahaba-haba no, yung naging usapan nga dito sa Manila Hotel patungkol sa ilang mga pangyayari sa bansa. Kagaya na lamang no, ng nakatakdangang transport strike o tigil pasada bukas kung saan kinumpirma ng Metropolitan Development Authority o MMDA at ng Philippine National Police na nakahanda na nga raw sila no, na umalalay sa publiko at kung magkaroon man no, ng kilos protesta sa kabila nga yan ng patuloy na pagtaas ng presyo ng produktong petrolyo sa merkado. No. Ayan ang kinumpirma ni MMDA Undersecretary Nicolas Torre at ni PNP Police Brigadier General Randolph Torres Tuanyo dito sa kapihan sa Manila sa Manila Hotel. No. At least for the part daw ng PNP ay handa na sila no, nagkaroon na daw sila ng inventory ng kanilang asset na pwede nilang ibigay or ipahiram o ibigay bilang tulong din no, na masasakyan at least no, sa mga local government units dito sa NCR maging sa ating mga kapatid na commuter na papasok sa kanilang mga trabaho at papunta sa kanilang mga paaralan. No. Patuloy din daw na binabantayan ng PNP yung mga retailers at mga gasolinahan na posible nga no, na magmanamantala sa pagtaas ng presyo ng mga petrolyo kung saan kinumpirma nga ng PNP na dalawa na yung kanilang nakita na umabuso dito. Isa nga dyan no, yung sa Nueva Ecija at isa sa Region 8 at agad na daw itong ikinoordinate sa DOE at posible ngang maharap ang mga ito sa mga kaso. No. At least for the side naman ng MMDA, Angela, no, at least sa kanilang update ay napapansin na nga raw nila na bumababa na yung volume ng sasakyan sa EDSA pero mas kapansin-pansin daw na mas madami ito paggabi, higit lalo kapag inaanunsyo daw ng Department of Energy yung panibagong taas presyo ng produktong petrolyo sa mga gasolinahan. Yun daw yung nagkukos ng mga traffic pero sa ngayon ay nag-approach na daw sila no, sa scientific-based na pagbilang ng at monitoring ng mga sasakyan sa EDSA na sinimulan nga Lunes ngayong linggo at inaasahan nga natin na ibibigay nila ang update nito bago matapos ang linggong ito. Nandito rin ang ilan sa mga kamari ng DMW na nagbigay naman ng kanilang full commitment na patuloy nga silang magbabantay sa mga kapatid natin na nasa Middle East. Angela at Jack.
Aside from dyan sa, of course, very important issue na tinatalakay nila ngayon tungkol sa ating all price issues, ano pa yung mga agenda nila today?
Nandito din, Angela, yung kasama natin mula sa DMW no, kung saan nga binigyan nila ng update yung patuloy daw na efforts ng pamahalaan para nga sa repatriation ng ating mga OFWs doon na nasa humigit kumulang 2,000 na raw no, yung kanilang na-actionan. No? And so far, meron daw silang 4 na major programs na nais ngang ihanda no, para nga daw kung sakali magpatuloy man yung sigulot doon kasi ayon sa kanila ay napaka-unprecedented daw nito no dahil hindi nga bababa sa 6 hanggang 8 na mga bansa yung sabay-sabay na umatake daw sa Iran no. Kaya pangako nila yung free repatriation program, yung on-site assistance doon sa mga kapatid natin na hindi pwedeng lumabas ng bansa dahil may mga airspaces pa din sa Middle East na nananatiling nakasarado at yung iba naman no ay kailangan nga nilang ilipat no through land transportation doon sa Middle East para makapunta doon sa mga bansa na bukas yung airspace kung saan naman magpapadala daw ang ating pamahalaan ng charter plane para nga maibalik dito sa Pilipinas ang ating mga OFWs. Siyempre, tinitignan din yung long-term solutions na siyempre ano yung magiging trabaho ng ating mga kapatid na OFWs. Nandyan yung upskilling ng mga ito at yung paghanap ng mga alternatibong trabaho at yung financial assistance na nakahanda naman para sa kanila.
Alright, thank you so much, mobile journalist Arles de los Santos.
Right, and that wraps up today's episode of News and Views.
Join us again tomorrow. I'm Angela Lagunsad Castro.
I'm Angelo Castro III, kapatid, we are One News.
All sides, all the time.